everything works okay. I had to change a few things. Always ever in trying to improve the stream. Don't know if I'm going to crash it. And there's a frozen moment. There we go. It is my 44th birthday. If you ask me at 34 where I thought I'd be at 44, I couldn't have gotten it right. Let's leave it at that. I have two hands to review from yesterday. That's all that I tagged. That's all that there is. That's all that we have to talk about. Yesterday was one of those days where it puts the grind in grind. There's no other way around it. We have two good examples. I'm not going to bitch about running bad, but if you want to get an example, watch the VOD. Let's check it out. I opened the ace jack in the second position, suited, pretty reasonable. Flop comes off 394. Player leads at me for half pot, or for about a third pot. This is the C bet that I would be expected to make. And when you see this move, you got to realize it's not a sign of strength. If somebody has a 9 here, they're going to bet fairly big to protect their hand and end the pot. This is usually some form of draw. It's usually not a great draw. Like, it's not 5-6, it's not, 5 deuce, something like that. This is usually something like the ace deuce of hearts or something, like backdoor draws, taking a shot, stuff like that. So I don't worry about these bets too much. And of course, when we feel like our opponent is weak, we just go ahead and raise. And the player does call. You're always going to have to bet the turn when you do this if they call, because they're making what I always refer to as the E call, the embarrassment call. Meaning they made a play on the flop. You have completely sniffed it out. But now to throw you off the scent, they have called. As if they have something that merits that. They do not. It's literally because they're embarrassed to fold after one bet. And I've donked out at shit and learned the lesson that, if it didn't work and I got raised, it's like, whoop, my read here is wrong. So I'm just going to go ahead and give these back to the dealer, and we're just going to move on. But a lot of players can't do that. I couldn't do that for a very long time. So he checks the turn, and of course now I pick up equity, and there is only one bet to make. There is 23 blinds in the pot, and I have 27 left. If I bet anything really smaller here, it doesn't really sell the position of my hand, which is I am strong. And this king is definitely bad for him, good for me. It would be very hard to call here with a pair of 7s or something. Like, you'd really have to feel like you had it. He could have been leading into me when I had a set of 9s. So I guess, except for the rare instance where he has a set and he's played a weird kind of trappy move, then this is going to work 100% of the time. And it does. And I think recognizing these is important. Because, like, on the flop, you're just kind of stuck with, well, now what? Yeah, because calling does leave you in that space. Because if we just call and then he bets the turn for, like, 2/3 pot, what the fuck do we do? Do we just jam in his face and just pray he doesn't have something that he calls us with? Plus, he's going to sniff out that we have a flush draw a lot. So I think raising the flop is really important in these situations. 10-9 suited. This is reasonable to play with 23 big blinds. It's a little borderline. I actually wanted to look up the exact starting range. It's weird because at like 80 blinds you would just fold this, and like at far less you would call it. So let's go to the tools section here. We're going to call it what, 25 blinds? Nah, 23. So yeah, 25, that's fine. 25 and 20, we'll run them both. Go to the tournament blinds. We'll start with 25. The position is under the gun. Raising first in 10-9 suited is a raise. Okay, very good. What about 20 big blinds? Let's see what it says for that. 10-9 suited, still a raise. Cool. Now, this is interesting. 80 big blinds. 10-9 suited, still a raise. Is 10-9 suited always a raise? Is there a stack level where we're folding 10-9 suited in early position? I think we found an evergreen hand, kids. 15 blinds? It's still 57%. 12? All right, you got to be at 12 big blinds to not raise with 10-9 suited ever. But whenever you have 10-9 suited, you're not wrong if you're at 15 blinds or more. Even under the gun. That's crazy. Pretty interesting. So we see a call, we make the 10. No, I don't have much, so my moves are going to have to make sense. I decide to make a standard C-bet. We get called. 7 on the turn, pretty good. Pick up the open-ender. Hey, thanks, Nike. I appreciate that, my man. Yep, it is my birthday. Thanks for the cheers. We pick up the straight draw on the turn. I decide to check back, and we make the straight on the river, which is awesome. Player checks, and I just decide to bet the full pot here. This is one of those ones where I did it super quick, trying to get hero called by a weak-ass king or a 10. And we do get called by third pair, Jack 8. Pretty interesting. I think if I bet normally on the river, this just goes away. Like, it just seems so unlikely that I have a 9. But in all honesty, I would go bet, check, bet with a king here a lot. Because why would I ever be afraid of a straight? So, an interesting little hand that we got value on. 2 hands, end of the report. I'm going to show you why. Check this out. So, only 2 marked hands the whole day. So now it's going to show all hands. 610 hands. That's all I played. Sounds like a lot. But on a normal day, I play over 1,000 hands when playing a full complement. I even upped the volume yesterday and added more tournaments to the screen. I was playing 6 at once instead of 4 or 5. And let's check out the graph, shall we? How did it go? For those of you who don't know, this green line is the chips you actually won. Okay? This blue line is the chips you won with the showdown, right? That's what kind of matters a lot. This yellow line is your expected value to win at showdown. So when that's higher than what you actually won and what you won at showdown, you could not get any board help. Now, I win a lot of pots by not making hands, but you have to make a hand at some point to win a poker tournament. This is also aces getting cracked. This is ace king versus ace queen getting cracked. You know, you can see these big dips when it just stayed level. That's what's going on. Like, these huge drop-offs are just like ridiculous. Like, it's just down tracking as I'm like going nowhere, and then just like boom, boom, boom. It's kind of crazy. The thing to be proud of here, the top line is red line. So without winning, these are the number of chips I won without a showdown. I still couldn't get into the positive yesterday just because nothing was going on, but this shows that I was stealing a lot. This shows that I was taking every opportunity I could to 3-bet and make moves. So that's really what I base my pride on, is where is my red line? If red line is high, cool. You know what I'm saying? Everything else is kind of out of my control. I can't control when somebody goes all in with ace queen and I have ace king and they beat me. But red line is how you judge yourself as a poker player. So that's the end of the hands from yesterday. I even took my time and kind of babbled a little bit. And this whole thing took 8 minutes to get through the important hands of yesterday. Well, anybody want to do some quizzes? I don't have anything else to fucking do. We got a Matt Affleck quiz. I'm thinking about doing my course study online with you guys. But let's do it. Let's do a Matt Affleck quiz and see where I'm at. Let me mute this so you guys don't hear the echo. Hang on. And we'll do a Matt Affleck quiz and then decide what to do from there.
All right, in this hand we have king queen offsuit. We are in the hijack. It's gonna fold to the low jack, who's got about 18 big blinds, and they make it 8,000 here. Should we fold, call, re-raise to 22,000, or go all in?
So I mean, I don't like calling. Although they don't have that many chips, so if we make it 22 and they jam, we're going to be playing for 72. Well, wait a minute. Wait. How many blinds does this guy really have? He has 72,000 divided by 4,000. That's like 18 blinds. So it's tough because of our position. I think if I was on the button, I would just rip against him. Because if I had 18 big blinds, like if the stacks were switched, if I had 18 big blinds, I would just jam versus this open. Seven-handed. He's in the low jack. We're in the high jack. Like, normally this hand is too bad to just call. Yeah, let's 3-bet. Because if it was suited, I think calling is best. But yeah, let's just 3-bet.
This is a tricky spot.
It is. It's because of his stack size and his position that the answer is call.
Folding can be a reasonable option here. I think we are strong enough, though, to flat call. I don't think our hand is strong enough to 3-bet and then call in all in. I think it's just a little too weak. This opponent's raising from a little too early of a position. And so I really don't like raising to 21,000 or 22,000. And we can't shove ever because we have too many large stacks behind us. So shoving's out of the question. 3-bet folding, I guess, could be an option. Make it 21,000 and fold to a shove, but it's pretty costly. But I think calling or folding are probably the best options, which is what I do. I call. And we go to the flop of 10 of spades, 9 of diamonds, deuce of diamonds. And our opponent bets 9,400. Should we fold, call, raise to 21,000, or go all in?
Why does Matt always have these fucking brain teasers? It's too early for this shit. There's arguments for all three. You can say, well, you fold because he's not giving everything up, although that's probably the worst answer. You can say call because floating here is reasonable because you have a gut shot and 2 overs. Also, I think you can represent diamonds when we get a check back on the turn if a diamond hits. I think raising is interesting because if we raise to 21 and he jams, well, we can call because we will have the outs if we believe that our overcards are good. I don't know if they are in this exact scenario. It's kind of hard for them to be good here. Like he can have ace queen, ace king, king jack, queen jack, jack 10. He can have a lot of these hands. Ace 10. I guess if he has ace 10, that's the best scenario for us. Or we can go all in. Of these, I think my choices are between go all in and call to float. So if we call, that puts 19, about 1925, about 45 in the pot, and he'll have 55 behind. So if the turn goes check, check, well, even if he just checks it and then we bet into him on a float, we're looking pretty good. Yeah, it's too early for me, man. I'm going to go ahead and call this one. I think in game, I may have just folded this pre-flop because of all the dynamic he was saying. I don't usually like to call with offsuit hands. I prefer to raise with them, but this is a nuance that I'm not familiar with because typically we're talking about that when the value of the hand is stronger, meaning we're on the button. And we're 3-betting because this hand's not strong enough to call, but it's too strong to fold. So we 3-bet to make the stack to pot ratio smaller. But I think this looks like a good float to me. I think we can call and do some bluffing later.
So if you said fold here, he chose the worst option. We have 2 overcards. We have, there's diamonds on the board. We don't have a diamond in our hand, but we have a gut shot, 2 overcards.
I think to remember about when we don't have a diamond, it's more likely that the opponent has a diamond. So therefore, he's more likely to be bluffing at a diamond draw, meaning he's less likely to have a piece of this board. Small combinatrix thing.
We're facing a small bet. This player bet 40% of the pot. there's just like we should be folding here less than 25% of the time with our range, and as that goes, like king queen is just way too high of an equity of a hand. I actually think if we had king queen with a diamond, shoving would be a very very viable option.
100%.
With no diamond in our hand, we don't block enough hands that are going to call her all in. So I think it's a little too weak. But if you had like king of diamonds here, shoving is definitely viable. But I think calling is the best option here. Our hand's a little too weak to raise and get all in with. I think calling is the best option here, which is what I do. All I will add, this player just should not c-bet this flop very often at all.
No.
Because our range is pretty strong here, flatting, and it connects really well with this board. 7 of spades on the turn. Our opponent bets 18,000. Should we fold, call, or go all in?
Well, see, this is kind of tough now. Because the problem with going all in is we can very much be behind. And we can very much be behind a hand that we can bluff on the river. Let's say the guy has the ace jack of diamonds, right? He's never going to fold here, and we're not ahead, so we have to hit a very slim margin. But if we call, and the river comes off, the red deuce, he's going to check, and we can call. That being said, he doesn't have a lot of chips left, man, so I don't know what stage of the tournament this is. God damn it, Matt, these are hard. I mean, I just feel like we get called so often when we jam. But this player's betting. I mean, he doesn't have much. Hey, thanks, Cena. I appreciate that, my man. It is my birthday. Not doing much special today. God damn it, this is tough. Part of me is kind of like overthinking this, thinking this player might be just leveraging their stack, but at the same time, if we call, they're gonna jam all rivers. I feel like there's just no. Yeah, I think we fold here. They just don't have enough. If they had 100,000 behind, that'd be a different story. But I think it's a fold.
The double flush draw comes in. Not all of our outs are clean now. And this is a card our opponent really shouldn't be barreling much. They should actually be shoving this card, so the small bet could be a stronger range. It's hard to tell. But we still have a lot of strong hands here, and this is probably now we can just fold as the best option here. Calling, I don't mind, but I think fold versus most opponents, and even in theory, is going to be probably the best option. This hand mixes a little bit of call and mostly folds. And shoving at this point without a flush draw to go with it is just kind of out of the question. Would just be kind of spewing off chips. I think I make a mistake here. I called. It's fine. It's mixing, but this hand is like 80% fold. So I think folding would probably be the best option. 10 of hearts on the river, and our opponent checks. Should we check or should we go all in?
It's an all in. Yeah, because our hand looks like a lot of things, but we don't win this one in a showdown ever. So
this hand is really close on the river, and we can kind of go either way between check and go all in. Kind of sucks. Like, we block a lot of the range that we want to fold. Like, a lot of the opponent's folding range when we shove is going to be like king, queen, queen, jack, king, jack, and we just block that. I think it'd be better to shove a hand like ace eight of diamonds or ace eight of clubs, ace eight of spades, maybe like an ace five of diamonds. Those are probably going to be better shoves. They don't block the folding range as much. They block ace highs that are going to call us. You can go either way if you think your opponent.
Then again, this is leading into my double float theory.
It's going to overfold. Shoving is fine here. If you think they're going to overcall or the range is too strong, you can go ahead and check. I went with the shove this time. I think it really doesn't matter too much here.
Not really.
If you look at a solver, this is like a 50-50 shove. And our opponent calls ace seven.
High?
Our opponent certainly cannot fold a pair here. Although I think the flop and the turn and probably even pre-flop were a mistake. The river is perfectly fine. And we lose the hand here. But I think we played it fine. I'm pretty happy with how we played this hand. Although we should have folded the turn probably. But if they're showing up with this hand, we probably can profitably call the turn. This hand shouldn't even be in the range. It's wider than it should be.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where, in theory and in general, and by the percentages, folding the turn is correct. But in this exact instance, because we're up against a player who's taking this wider range with such a short stack, we should be calling the turn. Ironically, when we're beat. Because if he's got this in his range, he's got, ace 8, he's got, king jacks, queen 10, or queen, jacks, things like that we're going to beat enough, or we're going to be able to bluff. I think if you make it to the river on this one, you just jam it. And because, if you had something good, like, top pair and a flush draw, or, two pair or something like that, the player doesn't have enough chips to really threaten you. So you would just kind of let them keep betting until they stopped, and then you would try to get it all. Like, if I had flopped a set on this one, even though there's all these draws out here, the guy only has fucking 15 blinds behind. I don't give a fuck. I'm playing the hand like jokers. You'd be amazed how often when you decide at a certain point in the hand, all right, I'm playing this hand like they're jokers. Meaning my hand is the nuts no matter what comes out on the board. You'd be amazed how many times I've made that decision in game and gotten the person's entire stack doing what most people would not do, because I just give up all the elements of protection, because it's like, well, am I ever going to fold a set here no matter what comes off on this river? No. So what's the fucking point? You know what I'm saying? Like, for 12 big blinds with a set, if a third diamond or a straight card comes out, if an 8 of diamonds comes off, am I ever going to fold this anyway? If the answer is no, then don't bother raising it, because all you're doing is blowing off the hands that you beat, and taking away their bluff opportunities from them. So interesting. Definitely a tough one. I definitely like the turn fold, and the flop play is definitely a call, I think. But yeah, sometimes you're going to call flop, and you're like, oh, I have so much equity. I have this gut shot. I have 2 overs. Like this, blah, blah, blah. And then the 7 comes off, and your hand just went from great to shit. And you're just like, well, fuck, now there's 2 straight draws. Now there's only 1 card to come. This opponent is barreling again. Like, now my hand is just garbage. Like, my equity is just through the floor at this point. So you can call flops and fold turns. Happens all the time. And it's one of the defining factors between fair players and good players, I think. I guess we're all caught up on the quizzes with that last one. Let's see if we got some more ones. I like the Matt Affleck ones, man. They're fucking tough. But they're good. Come on, poker coaching. By no means have I done all these. Like, there's 1,400 of these fucking things. By no means have I done them all. Here's a good few in a row. There's an Assassinato, Matt Affleck, and a Gripst. Yeah, what the hell. Let's just do those.
In this hand, you're playing a $55 buy-in, $80,000 guaranteed tournament on a large international site. You have ace 10 of hearts, under the gun +2. You're facing a raise from under the gun +1. The under the gun +1 player has played 35% of the hands thus far, but has only raised pre-flop 15% of the time. Big Blind is playing 14% of the hands overall and is raising pre-flop 7% of the time. So you have a stack of 54,672. Blinds are 475,950 with an ante of 120. Pre-flop here, do you want to fold, call, raise to 4750, or raise to 5750?
So Big Blind is tight. We know that. So we're not going to face a squeeze very often. And second position is loose, but doesn't raise much. So he's loose passive. So in that instance, I don't think we need to 3-bet. Because when a passive player who doesn't raise much pre-flop, right? Like, he has a limping range pre-flop at this point in the tournament. When you have that player, yeah, you'd like to be heads up with them, but if they start raising, it's like the hand's got to have a little bit more strength. So I think this is one where, because it's the ace-10 suited, I think this is a great example of why you call this hand rather than raise. Because it is too strong to raise and get 4-bet, and then have to fold. So I like the call here a lot.
This is subtly a pretty difficult hand. We'll see what you guys do. So we'll discuss why we do each decision by the end. So we 3-bet here to 47.50.
It's fine.
And Dan Bana goes in and calls. And we get this board 6-5-3. And it's check to us. Do we want to check? Do we want to bet 4,750? Do we want to bet 6,003? Or do we want to bet 9,004?
God damn it, Matt. He puts up the toughest ones. I can see 3-betting because the big blind is so tight. So, see, I took it the other way, though, because I'm thinking I'd rather see more players in this pot, but I guess isolating the loose passive player is more important. All right, that's disappointing. Yeah, I can see the point there. Our ace is good here a lot. We don't have any, there's not even one heart on the board. This could be a case for bet, 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 but I don't really know. Although the player's raising out of an early position and we're 3-betting out of an early position, so he can have a lot of pairs. Like, he can't have ace, king, ace, queen a lot here. I guess ace, queen is possible, but ace, queen suited not so much because he would 4-bet us. I don't think he has ace, king a lot, so I think we're up against a lot of pairs. So that being the case, I think it's 50-50. I think we either bet 1/3 pot or we just check it. And in position, I guess we should be betting more. Damn, that's tough. Hey, what's up, Gray Fox? Going pretty good, man. I'm dealing with these Assassinato quizzes. Matt Affleck and Assassinato, man, two of the toughest motherfuckers. Yeah, I'm gonna check because of the value of my hand. I know I just woke up, but it just seems like our ace is gonna do well enough, and this player is loose passive, so he's likely to have even a slice of this board. So I'm gonna check.
Okay, so let's go through this hand.
All right. Betting range obviously makes sense in position.
So this one's actually subtly pretty difficult because just because a person plays a lot of hands pre-flop doesn't necessarily mean you should 3-bet them. So a really good hypothetical would be, let's say this person over hundreds and thousands of hands has played 30% of the hands but has never raised pre-flop. Well, in that case, you should really just cold call with your ace, 10 of hearts, and take a flop because most likely they really have something.
See, that was my original feeling, was because he plays a lot of hands, doesn't raise pre-flop, but I guess it wasn't extreme enough.
Now, let's take this the other direction. This person for sure plays 30% of the hands over hundreds of thousands of hands, and every single time they play, they raise. Well, ace 10 of hearts is clobbering a 30% range, so we should be juicing this pot, especially considering that you can call this person if they move all in, but the person we're really worried about moving in, it's not this person. We'll have enough equity to call them. It's Jeffro, but Jeffro specifically is a pretty tight player, so it's very unlikely to happen. And so if we know this person is raising indiscriminately 30% of the time, we should 3-bet all the time. And if this person never raises, we should cold call. So now the line becomes, now we have to decide where we draw the line. Now, let's say this person is a 30-10, raises 10% of the time pre-flop. Should we 3-bet then? And of course, this stuff is just more pertinent if the person plays 35% of the hands like this person did. But to start with a hypothetical of just like a 30-10, because you'll see that a lot. But if this person were a 30-10, 10% of the time raising pre-flop, I'd still say you should call. Now, if this person raised 20% of the time, I would go ahead and 3-bet. Now, the question is, what if it's 15%?
Yeah, it's
like
tough.
It's 35% of the hands, but raises 15% of the time. At that point,
that's like a guy who plays too many hands, but has a proper raising range. You know what I mean? Because my range comes in about 20%, 15, which means I'm playing about 20% of hands and raising 15% of them. which are raising 15% of that 20. So I'm playing fairly tight aggressive. So a player who plays 30% of hands, 35% of hands, but raises 15% is kind of properly raising. So he may play too many junky hands for a limp, but his raising range may be correct, which means you have to look at this and go, well, fuck. His raising range is correct. He's in an earlier position. He has a stronger hand than me. So that gets really tough. If it's up around 20% or down around 10, you can make a much bigger assumption about him being too tight or too loose. But yeah, 15 is definitely the dividing line, and it's very hard.
35-15, it does show signs of passivity in that you barely have enough raising pre-flop that you want to get heads up with this guy. But really, what's a huge determining factor is this person plays so many hands to begin with.
Yeah.
And when the person plays so many hands to begin with, that's someone who doesn't like folding. So if you hit something post-flop, it's really likely you're going to get paid off.
Yeah.
If this person just was 15-15, played 15% of the hands, raised every single time when they did enter a pot, that's somebody who's fine with folding 8.5 times out of 10 pre-flop. So that's somebody who could really likely hit a weak pair and get rid of it, so not as much implied odds. We want this person heads up because most likely at some point someone's going to take a lot of chips from this person, and that person should be me. And that person should be you. So we go ahead and do this. Now the interesting thing is we make it 47.50 here, but since we have signs of passive play, we don't have to bet that big here. You don't. If you said 9,004, just get him out of there with all of his high cards, because he might not know this, but let's say he has like Queen of Spades, Jack of Diamonds. Like, he actually does have a bigger equity share in this pot than he knows, but we'd rather he just fold because all of his overcard outs are live, he has backdoor draws, etc. And if he has like Ace Jack, Ace Queen, we'd rather him just fold that right now. But the vast majority of his range, since he plays so many hands to begin with,
it's going to be like 10-9, 9-10, suited, Jack 10, Queen 10, hands like, Ace 9, King Jack, things like that. And believe it or not, King Jack, like you said, like Queen Jack, can call here a fair amount of the time. But those players don't know that. So when they go, I missed, all you have to do is bet. And then they're just like, I missed. And they just throw the hand away. Like, that's the whole thing with players like this. So it's interesting.
And it's always possible. Sometimes what happens is when people limp a lot of hands to begin with, once they start getting raised, they go, okay, I'm a little deeper stacked now. Maybe I'll raise, and that'll stop them from raising. So I'm a little bit more inclined to believe, like, maybe it's a little wider, just because that person likes to play period. But most likely they've missed this board the vast majority of the time, just because every range misses this board a lot of the time. So you don't have to push more than 47.50. And sure enough, he did just go ahead and fold.
Yeah, this is the exact case for why you make the 1/3 pot bet standard, because you just, no matter what you have here, if you're not an educated player, you cannot continue. You'd be amazed how many times I've seen players live, and this is specifically a live thing, fold pocket sevens here. Like, they got 3-bet, they flopped an overpair. And I'm not saying they should go all in, but they should definitely take a card off with a gut shot and an overpair. You know what I'm saying? But they just won't. They will go broke with pocket fours. That's the same player. The same player. So when you bet here, when they have pocket fours, they just check raise you. Then you rip all the chips in, and they're sitting there looking at calling, 250 to win, in a 1-2 game, 250 to win a pot of 350. They'll absolutely call you with just pocket fours, and then you just sit there and pray your jacks hold up. That's my bread and butter. And it's a 60-40, but they're still taking it in the shitter quite often there. So, yeah, interesting. This is a good example of betting range, and I like it a lot. Complicated. Assassinado is very complicated, but he plays bigger buy-ins than I do, so makes sense. Things get more deep. Let's go to the next one.
All right, in this hand we have Jack 10 of clubs. We're playing about 40 big blinds. We're going to raise it up from the hijack, and the big blind calls. We get Ace 10 9, two spades and a heart, two-tone flop. Big blind checks to us. Should we check, bet 500, bet 1,000, or bet 1,500?
Third pot standard bet I think is fine. He shouldn't have a lot of aces. We should, meaning our hand is good a lot. There's some argument to be made against protecting, but in all honesty, we don't want to bet too much because there is a good chance we can be beat or just out equitied like Queen Jack or something, or a spade draw. So I like 500.
So I assume most people are just going to auto bet like 500 here. And that's a fine answer, but I think there's some better answers. And this is a flop right away I know we are going to be using some really big bet sizings on. And the reason I know that without even looking at a solve is because I start to think of what the big blind's range looks like at the top of their range. And so the big blind here,
King, Queen, King, Jack, Broadway cards, things like that. King 10, hands that actually have us beat. So, yeah, betting bigger here makes sense because we would have an ace and want to protect against draws. From that point of view, I like it actually at 1,200 or so, but 1,000 is fine.
Doesn't have pocket nines, pocket tens, or pocket aces. Those are likely getting 3-bet pre-flop. Maybe a tighter player has pocket nines sometimes. They don't have like ace king. They probably don't even have ace queen. So the big blind is really missing the top part of the deck. Ace king, ace queen, pocket tens, pocket nines, pocket aces, maybe even a hand like ace 10 suited. Some people are going to 3-bet. And we have all those hands. We also don't really miss this flop. So in the hijack here, our range starts at like offsuit 10s. So we're raising like every 10x we have. We're going to have all the suited 9s. We just don't miss this board very much. All our aces hit a pair. Like our worst hands are like king 5 suited and like 5-4 suited, 6-7 suited type of hands, or small pairs. So right away, like I know my strategy on this board is going to be to bet very, very often. And when we can use big sizings here, I think we have a wide variety of options here. So what I wanted to look at in the solver, this hand, Jack 10 of clubs, actually mixes all three sizes, 30%, 60%, and 90%. But I actually really, really prefer betting 1,000 to 66% when I looked into it further. And the reason is because of how capped and how much of a disadvantage the big blind's at on this board. When we bet 1,000 here or 1,500, the big blind's supposed to fold all their 9x or most of their 9x that doesn't have a backdoor flush draw or a front door flush draw. So for example, 9-5 of clubs is just folding to 1,000. And I actually think this is a spot where most people aren't folding a hand like 9-5 of clubs here on the flop for 1,000. I think they're just going to call. So when you get a flop like this, you really want to know your opponent. And against like calling stations, it's like correct. You should just size up with your really good hands and size down. And I think a hand like this, like we're kind of in the middle of our range. And I still think I want to bet 1,000 here because people aren't going to fold 9x as much as they should on this flop. So against a tighter player, you can bet smaller. Against like a kind of a recreational call-in station, I think you should bet larger here and get value what I can. This flop does have some checking on it, and as that happens, like this hand does check, you know, at some frequency here. But really think about the interaction here and how you want to proceed going forward. I did check here. I think it's a mistake. I think betting 500 or betting 1,000 would be a better option. 4 clubs on the turn, and our opponent checks. Should I check, bet 500, bet 1,000, or bet 1,500?
Well, these are always tough because it's like I would never be in this position. I would see that either trying to represent a good ace or a weak ace. That being said, now that it's gone check twice, the player obviously doesn't have much, and I think we just want to protect against bullshit draws. So, you know, draws like King Jack or something. You know what I'm saying? So I think we bet 1,000 here as well.
So the same situation.
It's reversed now. Now we got to bet smaller because we're only one card to come, right? So we don't need to protect as much because now we're certain that our 10 is good.
Here on the turn, nothing really changed on the 4. The big blind kind of capped their range even more because if they have a strong hand like Ace Jack or 10-9 or even like a hand like Ace 8, they're likely to maybe bet out here on the turn, so they've even capped themselves even more. But we've also capped ourselves. We don't really have pocket 10s, we don't have pocket 9s, we don't have Ace 10, we don't have Ace 9. Like, we're betting most of our range. So like our range is like marginal aces, a lot of medium 10x, 9x, pocket 8s, pocket 7 types of hands. So we need to be careful. I think I like checking here. I think you could bet small. Betting 500 here I think is reasonable now. We don't want to bet too big, especially with this type of hand, because we've kind of capped our range now, so we have the same problem that the big blind had. So betting small or checking, I think, are both fine options here. I went and checked. 5 of diamonds on the river. Our opponent checks again. Same answers. Should we check? Bet 500, bet 1,000, or bet 1,500?
I feel like I'm going to get this one wrong too. But now that it's gone check all the way down, aren't we just trying to get a crying call out of a pair? So I guess we bet 500. Or we could try to induce the hero call by betting 1,500 and try to get hero called by a 9. Because I think even a 10 bets the turn here. Ooh, that's a tough one. God damn it. And it's funny because these are different stakes than I play, so my answers aren't necessarily wrong. Yeah, small or big, right? Yeah, I mean, although, see, here's the thing, though. You can't just say exactly, because you want to be polarized with your best hands and your bluffs. And there's a nuance to polarizing your value range. I think the standard here, and there's a reason why the standard is because it works, is to bet 1,000. But this hand was not played in a standard manner. Oh. Yeah, this is one where I like the big bet. Maybe I'm greedy, maybe I'm stupid, but I kind of really like the big bet. I think sometimes when we bet small, this is the other thing that I like to do. If we bet small here, sometimes we get check raised on a bluff. So if we bet 500, the player may make it 2,500 or 2,000. They may even make it 3,000. And believe it or not, that's a snap call. Because what does he ever have here that's checking the whole way and then check raising the river? Really only 2 hands. Deuce tray, with no spades, or pocket 5s. That's or pocket 4s, I guess. So that's really kind of it. So there's 2 4s. There's 3 4s that are unseen in the deck. You need 2 of them. So 6 combinations of 5s, and of course 16 combinations of deuce tray. So you're talking about 28 total combinations of cards in the deck. Whereas the hands that'll check raise bluff here is the rest of the deck. So there's probably a good 36 to 48 combinations that can see this as a good bluffing river. If you take the spades out of their hands like king, queen, hands like queen, jack, 7, 8, deuce 5, you know what I'm saying? Like things like that or deuce 6 that take away straight draws and stuff. And you got to remember, this is the big blind, so they can have the range on the entire deck. But can I really rely on a player being that prone to bluffing when we're this close to the start of the tournament? I don't think so. So I guess I'm going to do what I would do in game, which is go for the big bet and be greedy. Because I also think there's some value in not showing this down. Maybe I'm wrong. My brain's not 100% yet, so I think it's between 1,000 and 1,500 more so than 500, because that could just look like we're trying to get called with an ace, I think, too often. So I'm gonna go with the big bet. Fuck it.
I think we have kind of a mandatory bet now after we double check now. Yeah, maybe we have a hand like ace deuce or ace 3 here. We're going to have a lot of 10x, maybe some pocket kings, queens. We need to attack for value, mostly because like our opponents, unless they're like slow play trapping us with an ace here, we almost always have the best hand here. I like betting 1,000, getting some good value. We're want to get called by 9x, worst 10s, So I think we have the best hand here. When we value bet, we only need to be right 50% of the time when they call, and I think that's easily the case here. And so I really like betting 1,000 here, which I do. And our opponent calls with Queen 9, and yeah.
I do think specifically in this instance we would have gotten called on the bigger bet because it was Queen 9. Now 9-8, no. Like, people are aware of kickers, even if it's subconsciously. So him having, it was a good hand. Him having a queen in his hand makes it less likely that we're bluffing. But if we bet more, it makes him more likely to call because of the fact that he has a better kicker. And we might just have, like, pocket sevens or something here, you know what I'm saying? And taking a queen out of the deck, it's less likely we have ace queen. It's less likely we have queen 10. It's less likely we have king queen, sure. But at the same time, I think the bigger bet would have worked specifically in this instance. But then again, and this is one that I'm gonna study after the stream, because I feel like this is a blind spot for me where I could have played the hand better and gotten better value. I'm probably betting a third pot on the flop, and which I guess is wrong, because if we think about it realistically, if we had bet 1,000 on this flop into 1,500, we're getting called. You know, the Queen 9 is calling us in this exact instance. So this is one where nobody should have an ace, and when nobody has an ace, second pair is pretty fucking awesome. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of the same thing as, like, if we had ace deuce, right, on this flop, and the big blind checked. It's kind of a good idea to bet right there to get called by a 9 or a 10. And because there's so many more options for this player to have a hand that can continue, betting it small makes sense because we're trying to get them to call with worse. Yeah, Queen 9 could call a bit bigger. I really think so, but that's too specific. You know what I'm saying? We don't know he has Queen 9. Like, Queen 9 has the backdoor straight draw. Queen 9 has, good two-pair removal, things like that. But we don't know he has that. He's just as likely to have 8-9 and defend his blind as he is Queen 9. He can also have 10-9. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's bad situations for us here. 10-9 far less likely because we have a 10. But, he can have 9-7, he can have 9-6, he can have, and you can see, like, he can have all the suited nines, things like that. So, I like betting the flop small in this exact instance, I think. But I think I'm wrong. I think he's right because nobody should have an ace, and when nobody has an ace, it's just a value of how good our kicker is with our pair, and having a 10 with a jack is pretty good. I'd rather have king 10, but we're talking about if second pair is good, we have the third best second pair, so that's kind of awesome. So yeah, bigger bet on the flop, smaller bet on the turn, and a regular value bet on the river would have been the move here. So, but I don't think we get 3 streets. I think if I did bet 1,000 on the flop, I would go check on the turn, and then on the river, the guy's probably going to bet something to showdown, which is going to be enough. He's probably going to, if we bet 1,000, on the flop, there's going to be 3,500 in the pot. Turn goes check. And on the river, he may decide to turn his hand into a bluff. And then what does he bet? He bets 3,000 at most, usually around 2,600, somewhere in there. And we could just easily snap call that. Just because I think for the most part, there's more draws that the small blind is on rather than value hands, which is true in this case as well, because he's just bluff catching us. So, good hand. I definitely like this one. It's a lot of fun. And these are the little ones that you kind of stay up at night. And I have scratch paper always with me, these little notepads. I always have those with me. And this hand will pop into my head at some point tonight. And I'm sure I'm going to rewrite it and go through it again and then do the quiz again. So, interesting. Yeah, but I like this. And I could see myself integrating this very soon, like probably my next session. So this is a good deep study one. All right, let's go to the next one here.
Hello everyone, Evan Jarvis here for PokerCoaching.com. Today we are reviewing another hand from my deep run in the $1,100.
Man, my man Grips got a lot of content out of that Falls View tournament, man. He made a super deep run. I don't know if he won it. I kind of don't want to look it up because I don't want to spoil it for me because he keeps putting these quizzes in. But I must have done 10 quizzes where he's like, here's another quiz from my deep run at Fallsview. And it keeps progressing through the tournament. Like, the blinds just keep getting higher and higher. So it's just like, it's so fun to like win this tournament along with him if he did win it. You know, it's a lot of fun.
Buy-in WPT Fallsview tournament. And from day 2, we are one of the big stacks on the table, and we are currently about 20 players away from the money. We've been opening quite a few pots, being one of the big stacks on the bubble. And our reads is that we have the table captain who's opened even more hands than we are, and the guy in the big blind who's wearing a run at once hat and a Roots sweater. That's all we really know about him. Don't know much more than that. But folds around to us in the hijack. We have.
Side note. Right after I got my sponsorship with ACR back in the day, you know, I don't have it anymore, but I was one of their first stormers. There was a poker company called Razor. I don't know if they're still around, but they were just starting at the time, and they reached out to me, and they were like, hey, you know, we saw this thing, and we'd like to know if you want to, like, be an affiliate representative. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, well, affiliates get money for every time somebody buys something off the site. And I'm like, okay, what does representative mean? And they said, that means we give you free shit. And I was like, you better have a good hoodie. And I was like, and they were like, we weren't thinking about giving out hoodies, just t-shirts. And I'm like, bro, if you watch my stream, I always wear hoodies because I'm constantly cold. And the guy got back to me and he was like, all right, what's your size? And he sent me some t-shirts and a hoodie. And I will tell you that I own that hoodie to this day, even though I'm not sponsored by them anymore, because it is a high quality hoodie. But I'm never going to wear it in public. The guy who's wearing a Run It Once hat, if you don't work for or own Run It Once and you're wearing poker merch, you're kind of thinking a little bit too much of yourself, bro. Like... It's not like Nike. It's not like, you know, anybody who plays basketball wears Jordans. You know, it's not like that. It's like poker merch is kind of sold to the douchebags. Like, so having a Run It Once hat in the big blind is not. I mean, maybe the guy just likes hats, but I kind of look down on people like that. Funny story. Oh, this is hilarious. This is an example of me being an uber asshole, but it was so deserved. I had such contempt for this table. One of the last tournaments I played at South Point before the Delta variant kicked back up, and I couldn't play live anymore out here. I ended up doing very well. I think we chopped it four ways for like 1,200 a piece, which was pretty nice. First place was like 1,400, so it was like whatever. No, it was three-handed. We did it. We chopped it. So anyway, I had tripled up very early by playing against these players, and I moved to this other table and I sat down, and there was a woman. Now the Lips tour was at South Point, which is the ladies poker tour, right? And I love playing with women because their perspective is so different. That being said, there were some players in this tournament that did not know how to play poker. They didn't understand betting or raising at all. So this one woman who was in the big blind when I was in the cutoff, she had on a Lips hat, a Lips shirt, a Lips jacket, and Lips pants that had the logo on them and all like that. And I remember when I sat down, I went, gee, do you work for the Lips tour? And she goes, yeah. And I go, oh, well, that's cool. And I go, where's your Lips ring? And, you know, I was just joking, right? And she goes, oh, well, whatever. I'm like, trust me, if I got free clothes, I'd be wearing them, you know? And, you know, I was fucking with her. And it became very apparent that she was the coordinator for this meetup event on the Lips tour. She had no fucking clue how to play poker. Zero. To the point where we were about to go on break. I made a raise. It comes to her in the big blind. She looks at the dealer and goes, what do I do? And I stuck my hand out and I went, did you just say, what do I do? And she goes, well, I want to know what I do. And I go, are you asking? And the dealer's telling me to be quiet. And I'm like, you're not allowed to tell her. And I'm like, dude. And he's just like, you're right. And he's like, you know the rules. And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, your options of what to do are you can raise, meaning put more money in the pot, because she had this weird look on her face. Like when I said raise, she didn't know what the fuck that meant. I said, or you can call, which means you can match the bet and then we go to the flop, or you can fold, meaning you can just turn your hand into the dealer. And the floor man was right here. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and he goes, "You want a job?" And I just was like, dude, I'm like, this is hilarious. And the woman goes, "Oh, what should I do?" And I go, "Are you asking for advice in the middle of a hand?" She's like, "I don't know what to do." And I'm like, that's where your knowledge comes in. You have to know what to do with your hand. If you want to go to the flop, call the bet. If you think you want to push me off the pot and you have a good hand, you should raise. If you think you don't have a hand good enough, you should fold. And then there's this long silence. And I see somebody getting antsy like he's going to call the clock. And I go, I'm going to fuck with her. And I go, or if you think that I just don't have a hand that's good enough to raise and you can push me off of it, you can raise too. Or you can fold looking for a better spot against me because you know my range is so much tighter. Or you can raise me small and look to have me re-raise you. Then you can jam all in over the top over me if you think I'm full of shit. And I just went through every possible iteration of what you could do pre-flop. And the floorman is laughing his ass off. He's really like, he's like holding his face. And I go, "Are we calling the clock?" And he goes, "Do you want to call the clock?" I go, "I don't give a shit, but we're kind of wasting time and we're about to go on break." And he goes, "I'm not going to start the break clock till this hand is over." And I was like, "All right, cool." And she goes, "I call." And I go, "Probably a bad decision." And the flop comes off and I make an ace, right? I have ace 10. It's like ace 5-4. And she goes, "I don't want to bet." I go, "Okay, well now you want to check." And the dealer is like, he's like roiling in his chair. And I go, "Well now you just tap your hand or you say check. And then you have to see what I do." And she goes, "But I don't get to see the turn yet." I go, No. I get to bet." And it's like everybody at the table is laughing and they know I'm being a dick. And I go, "Okay." I go, "Personally, I like this flop. This is a flop that wins me a lot of pots. So I'm going to check. I'm going to check to trap you." And she literally goes, "You're not going to bet?" And I go, "No." And I go, "Because I feel like if I bet now, you'll fold. And I don't want you to fold. So I'm going to check." And she goes, "Well, then I bet." And I go, "Well, unfortunately, now because you've gone in turn, you can't bet. You can bet the turn after the turn comes out, right?" And she goes, "Oh, okay. The turn comes off. I swear to God, all this is true. The turn comes off and it's a 10. So now I have top two pair, right? I have aces and tens and it's like a 4-9 on the rest of the board." She goes, "What can I do now?" I go, "Now you can bet. You can bet as much as you like or as little as you like, as long as you bet more than 2,000 because that's the minimum right now." And she goes, "Okay." And she looks at her stack and she has 10,000 and she's thinking about, or she has like 15,000 and she's thinking about it. And I go, "There's 10,000 in the pot. So if you want your bet to make an impact, you probably want to bet 7,000. So she goes, she big smile on her face and she goes, "I bet 7,000. I go, "I'm all in, sweetheart." And she goes, "What?" And I go, "You're now playing for all your chips by calling, or you can fold. And I have a piece of advice for you. If you can't beat a pair, you should fold." And she immediately calls me and I go, "I have top two pair. Do you have like king 10? And she goes, "How did you know that?" And I'm like, "Common sense." And she leaves the tournament. I swear to God, she walks all the way out of the poker room. Everybody at the table is looking like this as I'm laughing like like the Joker in the fucking chair. I'm like cackling. Nobody makes a sound. She gets just out of sight and the tournament director goes, "We're on break, folks." And he leans into me and he goes, "You're a fucking asshole." I was like, fuck her. She was fucking up the game. Get out of my fucking tournament. It was so great. It was one of my favorite days ever. And I was such a fucking dickhead to her. But what the fuck are you doing? And here's the thing. She was just fucking up the play for everybody. The dealer afterwards told me that they got off like 5 hands before I got to the table. They had been at the table for like 40 minutes. And I was like, because of her. And I was like, you don't just muscle her along. He's like, dude, I'm dealing a tournament. I go, no, I get it. And he goes, but that was fucking awesome. Welcome to the X-Men and happy birthday, Mr. Max Olfarte. Oh, funny. Oh, dude, I've been feeling old for a while. Although I gotta say, my life is better now. I remember hearing a couple years ago that somebody said they tell you that high school is the best years of your life, but the truth is the best years of your life are after you turn 40. It really is. Even my 30s were way too tumultuous and all like that. And you don't really get to start having the perspective to work on yourself and really make progress working on yourself until you're in your 40s, I don't think. And it's not a matter of comfort because I'm struggling for bills, you know what I'm saying? It's just a matter of having enough life experience and enough self-awareness to know how to work on yourself properly. And so I'm much happier now than I ever been in my entire life. Even though I'm Qui-Gon broke, man. Personally and goal-oriented wise, I am a million miles away from where I want to be. But I gotta say, my life is generally happy because my relationships are good. You know what I'm saying? My health is good. I'm improving my health all the time. I'm losing weight. I'm, very fit already. And, I feel good generally. And I have a good time. And you kind of, in your 40s, you kind of realize all that other bullshit doesn't matter. It's really just about the relationships you have with people and the experiences you have, when you're here. And not to get too philosophical, but I really feel like my life started getting a lot better after 40. And, just wait until you get your own cardiologist. Oh, dude, I'm on supplements. I have to take a lot of supplements, and I was on medication for gallstones for a while, and I did have some cholesterol issues because I have them genetically. So trust me, I'm with you. Although I remembered what that shot was you told me about yesterday, and I thought I was right. That's a shot where you can't do exercise for the stress test. Holy shit, that's got some fucked up effects. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to stuff like that, but I have to go to the doctor every 6 weeks anyway, just because of my fucking testosterone and shit. So yeah, fun fact, if you're fat your whole life, you end up with low testosterone. I actually had a muted puberty, so this lush beard couldn't grow it until I was 33 and finally on testosterone. Voice got deeper too. Let's see here. Okay, so let's pick up the hand here. So we got a guy in a run at once hat. Yeah, it kind of looks childish seeing someone registering in a tournament having a brand new poker shirt. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hilarious.
Ace King offsuit. Actions on you. What should you do? Should you fold, call, raise to 12,000, or raise to 16,000?
I mean, we're super deep, like chip wise, not exactly blind wise, but we are 20 off the cash on the bubble, and I'm not folding. So what's the case here? Is it better to raise to 2 point? What is that? That's like 2.4. No, what's half a blind? Half a blind is 3K. So that's like more than 2.5 blinds right here. So I just want to min raise because if I get 3-bet, I want to jam it. So I'm going to min raise it.
As long as you put in a raise with this hand, you've made the correct decision. Whether you go for the smaller size, which will give you more room to call 3-bets, more room for people to make light 3-bets where you can 4-bet all in, and cheaper odds for the big blind to see a flop, in which case we get a play pot in position. That is totally fine. Or you can go with the slightly larger sizing of about 2.5x to get a few more folds, and if you're going to get a 3-bet from your opponent, it's probably going to be a larger size. In this case, with each of these players behind having about 20 to 25 bigs, going for a larger opening size actually incentivizes them to 3-bet shove more than it does versus a min raise because they pick up more chips when you fold. And for the player in the big blind, it gives him slightly worse odds to defend, which means we're just going to get this through more often. Folds to the big blind, who 3-bets it to 55,000. Very optimal sizing here. About 3.5x are open from out of position. and it's for about 30% of his chips. Not quite, but almost 30% of his chips. Action's back on you. What should you do? If you call here, there will be 100K in the middle with 150,000 behind. Yeah. Do you want to fold, call, four bet to 110,000, or go all in?
Well, I don't like four betting, and we've been table captaining, right? So we've been raising a lot of hands, which means we're going to get three bet lighter. Okay. Now this player has 24 big blinds behind, and we have ace king, and he's three betting us lighter. We're in position, which means we're going to get to see the flop and then react from there. So there's two schools of thought on this. One is, since he's three betting us lighter, we should just jam, because that also means he's going to call us wider. So he can have ace queen, he can have king queen suited, he can have ace jack suited, all those hands that we dominate. That's the most compelling argument that I have. The other theory is that we call, and when we spike, we take him all. We take it all. You know what I'm saying? His raise is fucking large, though. Like, his raise is really big. Like, we made it 16K. He went to 55K. Tough. He made it pretty big, which to me is making this, it's supposed to make the statement, I'm not folding. He's got like a third of his chips in there, right? But would you do that with queens or aces or kings? Don't think so. I think you'd make it about 40. You'd go more standard. You know, even 3x our open is 48,000. So this is juicy. I like a jam here. I think a jam here is great because we're going to get called by all the hands that we dominate, like ace queen and ace jack suited, and king queen suited, and we're going to get folds out of anything putting us at risk, like pocket tens and lower. I like a jam here. I'm pretty aggressive, and I know this is a live tournament, which plays much differently than online. Live players are worse, so that incentivizes a call, because when the ace hits, they'll just give us everything, and it's very safe. But we are near the bubble, so these statements can be skewed. But I still like the all-in. I like the jam here. Yeah.
I give major props to my opponent in this spot for choosing the sizing that he did. It put me in a very awkward spot in this situation.
Where's the sound?
Yeah, it was. This is a tough situation. That's all it was to it, and sometimes that's going to happen in tournaments. Calling makes the most sense, and I think it gets the most points here. We play the pot in position with 1.5x the pot remaining. We like to be a little bit deeper when calling in position so that our positional advantage is worth a bit more. If we had an extra 50,000 chips behind, or he had an extra 50,000, we like flatting.
See, that's my feeling, is because if he makes this 3-bet and then does a standard C-bet and we just miss the flop, we kind of might have to give up the ace-king. Like, all right.
Even more, because we get to play in position with a couple of streets of play. As it stands, if he has, those big pairs, jacks, queens, kings, aces, and the board comes low with his stacked pot ratio, he can just put all the money on the flop.
Yeah.
And we are forced to fold. If we choose the option of jamming, we get a few benefits going for us. One is that we get to see all 5 cards, which is always a good thing with ace king. The other is that with it being the bubble, and with him having a healthy, decent sized stack to start the hand, but us having an even bigger stack, he may hero fold a hand like tens, jacks, or queens that he elected to 3-bet since we're opening a lot of pots.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I think we get enough folds out of hands that put us at risk, and we can just safely play here. Now, I mean, my philosophy is a little different because I play 99% of my poker online, and I haven't played a live tournament with this big a buy-in. I mean, not in the modern poker era. Back in 06, yeah,
but doesn't want to get it in against an extremely nutted range. We also have an ace and a king, which block aces and kings and give us a better chance of getting that through. All together, with it being the bubble, with us opening a lot and us having a loose image, him having a lot of chips, a healthy stack that he wouldn't want to just blow, us having the blockers and wanting to see all 5 cards, I opted to go all in, but I do not think that it was the best play.
I don't see the argument against all in here. I think with this dynamic, we've been the table captains, so we should be opening wide. We opened for minimum, which means our range can be anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not pumping it up, trying to take down pots. We're just, you know what I'm saying? Like, the strength of our hand equals out the size of our bet. I think jamming here is optimal. I really do, because we're going to get so many folds out of hands that should call us, because if this is a race, and this guy knows it's a race, right? Like, if he has pocket jacks, you're pretty confident. But if you have pocket queens here, you kind of know this is a race. So then the question becomes, do you want to race for your tournament life? I don't think this player does. Not that close to the cash. He's still okay. He's at a median stack at this point. I don't know if you want to take that one when I can definitely have aces or kings. How many chips did Big Blind start with, and how many big blinds did he 3-bet versus the raise? He started with like 210,000. We made it 16,000. He made it 55,000. So we made a min raise, and he 3.5x'd that. To me, that raise is so big that it screams weakness. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you wanted to 3-bet to 48,000 or even, 50,000 just to make a nice round number, I would be more inclined to believe that you have a really strong hand. Hey, thanks, Leslie. I appreciate that. Birthday wish all the way from Norway. Much appreciated. So, yeah, I think I prefer the jam here for all those reasons. I think it's just so great, and I don't think we're going to get raced against a pair of tens. Oh, Courtney's home, and she's got the in-laws here, so I'm going to have to wrap this up shortly. Just give me a minute.
That's why calling gets the most points. Our opponent tanked for a very long time here. Really didn't want to put the chips in, but decided his hand was ultimately too good,
Jacks?
as it was, and called with pocket kings.
Kings?
If I had been correct in my assumption that we had an extra 100,000 chips before, we had a lot more play even if we lost this pot, whereas with it really crippling us for us to lose, or for us to double him up on this spot, it made it less good of a shove and definitely better of a call. Anyway, we gave ourselves a chance to get lucky. We gave ourselves a chance to fold out some very strong hands. Given how long it took him to call with kings, I think he probably would have folded queens or jacks, which means we're getting a ton of his range to fold with this 4-bet. With it being the bubble, it's definitely a solid play, definitely a good one to have in your arsenal. But with how easily we were picking up chips with steals, it was a little bit more variance than we needed to take on given the situation and the dynamic of the tournament. So, slight mistake from your coach, Evan, and one that I hope you can learn from and feel a little bit of my disappointment in myself for taking a bit more variance than I needed to in a spot.
I don't think this is a mistake. I don't think it's a mistake because of the tanking and because we almost got the guy to fold range outside of aces. No, I think this is a jam all day long. I think it's awesome. We almost got kings to fold. I think this is fantastic. I think this is just one where we ran into the very tip top of the range and he still almost folded. So I like this jam here. I think it's fine. It's a shame that it's near the bubble. It's a shame that we lose a lot of chips, but I think this is a super rare situation, and I definitely think this is not a mistake on Evan's part. I think well thought out. I think the jam is the move. All right. I got to go. Everybody just came in singing happy birthday. I'm going to go enjoy them. I'll see you guys later, and I don't know. I might be playing today. I might not. I have no idea. Have a good day, guys. I'll probably see you later, but maybe not for some serious poker. So, yeah, have a good day. Bye.